Thank you for reconvening for our plenary session 2 of the National Governors Association. As you all aware, last November the House passed and the President signed into law the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. This long-awaited infrastructure package was the result of advocacy efforts by many governors and the work of the NGA. And I want to personally thank Governor Murphy, even though he is still tending to his responsibilities in New Jersey. But I want to thank him for his partnership as Vice Chair in helping to lead our efforts to get the bill past the finish line. This historic investment will help fund states and territories' core infrastructure priorities, including $300 billion in funding for state highway projects and programs, roughly $70 billion in investments in clean energy transmission upgrades, $40 billion in grants to states for broadband deployment and to make broadband more accessible for low-income families in rural and urban communities alike, $17 billion in port infrastructure, and $25 billion for airports to address repair and maintenance backlogs. Today, we are honored to be joined by a leader who will help us drive these infrastructure investments forward in our transportation sector, along with two of our members who were instrumental in advancing this historic legislation, for a discussion about how we can all put to use and benefit from the bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. We are excited to have today's conversation with Secretary Pete Buttigieg. As mayor of South Bend, he worked to improve transportation safety and tackled some of the city's toughest problems. He gave people reasons to come downtown by taking a fresh look at the city's attributes. As mayor, he worked across the aisle to transform South Bend's future and improve people's everyday lives. Household income grew, poverty fell, and unemployment was cut in half. The city established new resources to extend opportunity and access to technology for all residents, and he launched a Smart Streets initiative to improve street design in the downtown and the historically under-resourced West Side. The Complete Street strategy led to benefits that included small business growth along previously neglected corridors and hundreds of millions of dollars in new private investment in the downtown that at one time was too empty. Now, as our nation's 19th Transportation Secretary, he'll be overseeing a record level of transportation funds as part of the infrastructure package. Secretary Buttigieg, I know I speak for all the governors when I say we're looking forward to working with you and spending these funds wisely and accountably. And also, Mr. Secretary, thanks for the good conversation we had with the governors previously at lunch. To lead the discussion will be Governor Hogan and Governor Whitmer leading our discussion with the Secretary. Last May, we were thankful to each of you for testifying on behalf of the Governor's infrastructure priorities before the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. The law that we have today reflects so many of those advocacy principles, and we're grateful for your help shaping the legislation. And Governor Hogan, I know this was your initiative when you were chair of the NGA. It's appropriate that you kick this off. Governor Whitmer, I know that infrastructure is critically important to you as well and been an advocate for it in Michigan. But with that, Governor Hogan, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's great to be here, Governor. Great to be with you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for joining us. You know, the last time that all the governors were gathered here was 2 years ago for the NGA winter meeting, and I was the NGA chair. As Governor Hutchinson mentioned, we had a year-long infrastructure initiative that we were holding summits around the country and around the world and trying to come up with a package, a transformational infrastructure package. And it was near the end of that meeting where we had that first meeting with the whole federal government's leaders of the health agencies to warn us about what was just hitting our shores with COVID-19. And it's just hard to believe that's been 2 years, but a lot's been We've put a lot behind us, including, I think the good news of getting this infrastructure deal done and making it happen. I think that's great bipartisan accomplishment. Mr. Secretary, thank you for your commitment, for collaborating with the governors. We're on the front lines trying to get infrastructure done. Thank you for coming to visit us in Baltimore, at the Port of Baltimore. You're welcome back anytime. You can see some of those cranes unloading those big ships. I also want to thank all of my fellow governors who worked together on putting together a lot of these recommendations that the NGA came up with, especially Governor Whitmer, who hosted one of our infrastructure summits in Detroit. She, as was mentioned, joined me. The two of us went before the Senate committee and testified on behalf of the NGA. And I'm pleased to report that every single one of the NGA's recommendations in our infrastructure initiative was included in this bill. So I just want to thank all of the fellow governors. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your leadership and cooperation. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague from the great state of Michigan, Governor Whitmer.
Thank you, Governor Hogan. So glad to be here. I'm very excited about this conversation. I ran on fixing the dam roads in Michigan. I think we're going to adjust that going into this next year and say fix the dams and roads. We got a lot of infrastructure work to do together, and I am excited and really appreciate the way that governors and the NGA have worked together to secure more resources so that we can fix our roadways and build a more resilient and equitable infrastructure system. So Secretary Buttigieg, I'd like to get things started by asking how the administration plans to help states and territories and get the ball rolling on these important infrastructure investments and give you an opportunity to get us started. So please take it away, Secretary.
Well, thank you so much, Governor Whitmer. I'm honored to be with you, with Governor Hogan, Governor Hutchinson, and all of you, and I want to thank the NGA for having me. I'll just offer a couple of quick thoughts, and hopefully we can quickly get to the discussion. But first and foremost, I just want to thank and applaud the work that NGA did and that so many of you did individually, as you just shared in your opening remarks, both shaping the design of the President's historic bipartisan infrastructure law and the advocacy that made it a reality. We saw governors from so-called red states and so-called blue states alike calling for investments like this, as there have been calls for these investments for decades. And I'm very proud to be part of the administration that was able to deliver this law with bipartisan support. This law is going to do so much for so many people in every state, territory in the country. It's going to build a national network of electric charging stations, electric buses, so kids can go to school without being exposed to toxic fumes. It will expand transit in large and small communities alike so that commutes are faster and traffic is improved. It's going to give us a chance to modernize our supply chain infrastructure, building again on excellent work done by so many of the governors here to keep our economy moving. And of course, it's creating a generation of good-paying jobs across the country. It's a historic undertaking, and it's going to take years to fully realize this vision. In many ways, we are building cathedrals, but we're also getting to work immediately. In just the past 2 weeks, we have launched a bridge formula program that will repair up to 15,000 bridges around the country. We unveiled the National Roadway Safety Strategy to finally, fully, meaningfully address the crisis of preventable deaths on American roads. Just yesterday, we opened applications for our largest ever round of the RAISE discretionary grant program that will help realize projects to create jobs, make communities safer, and make transportation cleaner and more equitable. We recognize that this is a shared priority for everybody. There is no such thing as a Republican bridge or a Democratic bus system. People in every state, every territory, every community are counting on their infrastructure, and they're counting on us with a once-in-a-century opportunity to modernize that, to modernize the transportation systems and make them safer, cleaner, and more accessible for Americans from every generation to come. So we are looking forward to our work together to, on an accountable and swift basis, get these resources out to make a difference. And it is fitting that the governors played such a role in shaping and delivering this law, because you and your state departments of transportation will also be the absolute front lines in making sure that we truly see the value of these investments delivered to the traveling public. So thanks again for everything that you do, and really looking forward to our discussion right now.